Paras Sala, P.T. Sala, and my Wazi colleague, Bhaveshwara. I call him Wazi colleague because wherever Reserve Bank goes with the financial services, he is there. Be it in SSC meetings, be it any forum, he is also there. I would not have called him as Wazi colleague had he not confined himself only to his profession. He never uses his association with Reserve Bank for his personal advancement, personal progress in his practice and his business. He is basically a fraternity member. In fact, Vijayawada has forgot. He also handles some sessions for the Reserve Bank officers whenever we call on derivatives or for new officers posted in the financial services departments. We request Mr. Bhaveshwara to come and handle the sessions. He was always kind enough to accept our invitation and come and brief or apprise the newly recruited officers about the derivatives and various structures in the financial sector. And I thank the Chamber of Tax Consultants for having invited me for this day's seminar, for interacting with the members of the chamber. This chamber is a conglomerated chamber, as our friend has put it in the opening remarks. I am happy to see today, I think many industry people are there, where I have also concerns, so that I can tell them what are the concerns of the Reserve Bank of India and how the concerns arose. You may have better reason. You may say that no, I am not aware, because you are aware that ignorance is no excuse. During the course of my interaction, I will be telling you the magnitude and the systemic proportion of the violations the industry is committing, unknowingly perhaps, and knowingly sometimes also. And there are some, mostly the chartered accountants who are present in the forum in the house, sometimes they also come and plead ignorance. If the chartered accountant takes plea, takes ignorance, then I should definitely accept the ignorance of the industry. When they say that we are ignorant, that's why we have committed this violation, if you call it so. Anyhow, to bring it some preliminary things, I will tell you briefly what are the regulatory perimeter of the Reserve Bank and what are the basic nuances of the NBFCs and how the sector has evolved, how the sector has grown, and why there was a need for redefining or revising the regulatory framework, bringing in some enhanced regulations for the NBFCs, the rationale behind the regulations. With that, I will leave it to the forum. Then Mr. Bhaveshwara will take up regarding the complaints. Then both of us will sit together and take your questions. This is how we will plan to proceed. See, basically, you may be wondering what is the NBFC? An NBFC should be a company. It should be incorporated in the Companies Act, be it 1956 or be it 2013. And it is primarily engaged in extending loans and advances, in acquisition of shares, stocks, bonds, debentures and securities, and leading on hyper business and chit fund business. But these are the main activities of an NBFC. If any company is doing with his own funds or with the borrowed funds, any of these four activities, it will be construed that the company is undertaking the business of a non-banking financial institution. In such case, you need to take registration from the Reserve Bank. You need to take what is called a license. And we don't call it license because the license law is over in 76. We call it certificate of registration. And certificate of registration is freely granted by the Reserve Bank of India. We are not charging anything so far. We have been in this business of granting certificate of registration for more than 15 years, but we have not been granting, though there is provision, because we don't want to burden the company with our cost. I think other regulators, they are charging, and we are not in the while Reserve Bank has been mindful while doing the business. Reserve Bank has excluded the institution if its main activity is agricultural activity, or industrial activity, or sale or purchase of immovable property. These activities are excluded. So only financial services, doing the business of lending and advancing, or acquisition of shares and stock, leading and chit fund business will be covered as a non-banking financial institutions. The The principal business we have defined in our press release in 1999. The principal business of an institution will be that of financial institution, provided if it has more than 50% of its total assets as financial assets and not less than 50% of your gross income is derived from such financial assets. Both these criteria should be met to say that you are an NBFC. If either of them is met, then it is not an NBFC. If both are met only, it is NBFC and you need to take registration from the Reserve Bank of India. Suppose during the course of your, at the initial phases, you have registered your company as some, say, industrial activity company, manufacturing company, or services company. So even if IT companies are there, they only rendering services. But during the course of their rendering services, they would have accumulated so much of wealth or money, they would still go on investing in the shares and debentures or stocks. But yes, a time may come where the financial assets will cross more than 50%. And once you cross 50% of the total assets of the balance sheet, then it is likely that more than 50% of your gross income will also be derived from such financial assets. In such case, a company which has started out as an IT company, or industrial company, or trading company may turn into an NBFC without your knowledge. So in this case, in such cases, it is the duty of the statutory auditors to tell the management, you are going to cross this mark, you need to take the certificate of registration. If your intent is to continue the NBFC business as your principal business. So it is an alert to the management that either they have to divest the shares they have acquired so far, convert it to fixed deposit, or declare dividend or bonus shares. That is how they have to do it. In case the intent is to continue with the business model, say continue the NBFC business, then they need to come to the Reserve Bank. They need to approach the Reserve Bank of India to take the certification. People need not be afraid of the Reserve Bank of India. People can freely approach, seek clarification directly. In fact, we encourage, we appreciate if the companies directly approach. Because if you approach through some consultants or through some middlemen, there may be some gaps, communication gaps would be there. So if you directly approach the Reserve Bank of India, you will directly hear from the horse's mouth. No doubt you can come with an associate or consultant also, we don't mind. But if you rely only on the consultant or the middleman, perhaps you may end up having some miscommunication, whereby you may not do right things. So we always request, we appreciate if the company directly approaches. In case they are little hesitant, they can approach with they can associate, they can accompany with a consultant. We don't mind. This is how you have to come into the once you incorporate your company as a corporate entity under Companies Act, then you need to have minimum 2 crore rupees. Of course, I will be telling about this 2 crore business, how this has come. Then you have to get it registered. There is a prescribed application and certain accompanying attachments you have to file with the Reserve Bank of India. And Reserve Bank will undertake an elaborate process before issuing the granting certificate of registration. We conduct due diligence of promoters and directors. We see their track record, all these things. Then in case you have got any group companies, we see the track record of the group companies with the other regulators by making a reference to the concerned regulators. And we also see whether the company, the applicant company, has made any justification as to why you need to have a certificate NBFC. And we also see the business projections, whether the business projections are viable, or either how he had made projections. We see to it. Then after satisfying ourselves, we normally grant certificate of registration to the company, on receipt of which the company can commence the NBFC business. We have got different types of business, both on deposit taking companies and non-deposit taking companies. Based on the liability side, we have categorized companies as deposit taking companies and non-deposit taking companies. Typically, technically, we call them A category companies. Companies which are permitted to accept deposit, they are called category A companies. And companies which do not want to take deposits, or which are not permitted to take deposits, they are called non-deposit taking companies. Actually, from 1997 onwards, we are not allowing any company to accept deposits. Because the deposit acceptance activity should be left to the banking system. This is our objective, and this is stated policy. Because in the deposit taking company, in the deposit acceptance activity, if it is left to the banking system, there they are tightly regulated, and the depositors' protection is safeguarded. In case of non-banking financial companies, first of all, we are having a light touch regulation on the NBFCs. Secondly, there is no deferred insurance on these companies. That is why we are not allowing any company to accept complete deferred from 1997 onwards. But however, in 1997, there were some legacy companies. There are companies which are allowed to accept deferred at that time. So those companies which are holding public deferred at that time, they are continuing to accept deferred subject to regulations being issued from time to time. Of course, there is another animal called residuary non-banking companies whose principal activity is only accepting deposits. There are only two companies. This model is not a viable model. We have advised these two companies to unwind their entire business by June 30th, 2015. In another 2-3 months, they will have to unwind their deposits, unwind the business they hold, and they have to diversify their business into some other activity. This is the and this RDC, is going to be an enigma of the past. Based on the activity, we have classified companies into various categories, depending on their concentration. Depending on the concentration of the assets, we have classified the companies into loan companies, investment companies, asset finance companies. Basically, those companies which are financing for acquisition of vehicles, industrial equipment, commercial activity, where there is asset creation in the economy. So we have given some asset finance company classification, where there was some special dispensation, regulated dispensation for this type of companies. And core investment companies, where we have got a separate section from another faculty here. Then infrastructure finance companies, infrastructure debt fund, NBFC, microfinance institution. Of course, I have not added what are called asset reconstruction companies, because that is regulated by different act, the Surface Act, and there is factoring companies are also there. There is a factoring regulation act is there. So these are the various NBFCs in the sector. Actually, broadly speaking, there are all the financial services are called NBFCs, but we have there are separate sectoral regulators for each segment of the financial services. As I said, all the NBFCs which I have discussed, loan companies, investment companies, asset finance companies, infrastructure finance companies, infrastructure debt fund, microfinance institutions, these are regulated by the Reserve Bank of India. And the housing finance companies, they are also one type of NBFC. They are regulated and supervised by the National Housing Bank. And insurance companies are by the IRDAI. And broking companies, merchant banking companies by the SEBI. And Nidhi companies, what are called mutual benefit financial companies. I think they are concentrated mostly in South India, mostly in Chennai. They are concentrated. These companies are directly regulated by the Ministry of Corporate Affairs. And there are called miscellaneous non-banking companies, which are known as chit fund companies. These chit fund companies are regulated by the state government through the register of chits. Of course, these chit fund companies have been prohibited from accepting any deposits from any member of the public. Only from chit fund company members they can accept deposits. Then, if this is the case, why there should be is there a need for regulating the NBFCs? See, the NBFCs over more than 50 years, these companies are under regulation. The Reserve Bank has been regulating them, and these NBFCs have emerged as alternate sources of funding and financial intermediation. These companies, over a period of time, they have carved out a niche for themselves in financing the second-hand vehicles, commercial vehicles. Even against nowadays, even the gold jewelry financing companies, they have even for micro lending also they have, in fact, this MFI companies, because they only they come where they are able to reach the unreached, fund the unfunded, and include the excluded sections of the society. Because these NBFCs have been playing the supplementary role to the banking system in financial intermediation and complementary role in financial inclusion agenda of the Reserve Bank of India government. So these NBFCs, because of their nimble-footed nature and the heterogeneous nature, these companies are able to bridge the credit needs of the people in general, and particularly the excluded sections. So if that is the case, should we regulate such companies? Yes, we should regulate these companies because of the growth in the size, the complexity, and the heterogeneity, and the technological innovations which they have brought in. There is a widespread need because their reliance has shifted from their own fund to the public fund. The public fund here I refer to, there are 5 components of the public fund. One is public deposits. Of course, public deposits, the companies which are accepted public deposits are very few in number. And the other components of the public fund include the borrowings from the banks. The borrowings from the banks means you are indirectly tapping the deposit from public deposit. The bank is giving the loan to the NBFC from the deposits only. So you are indirectly touching the public deposits. Then the commercial paper, then the non-convertible debentures, then there is inter-corporate borrowing. These are other corporate, other components of the public fund. Since they are having because of the increased access to the public fund and increased access to the public sources of fund, there is a direct need for the regulation and also to take the NBFC sector on healthy and vibrant lines. And further, this NBFCs should also subserve the monetary policy objective. The monetary policy objective of the Reserve Bank of India is to see that the genuine credit needs of the entire sector, the real sector, should be met. The credit needs should be met either from the banking system or from the non-banking system. So, these by regulating the NBFCs, we will also be channeling the trade to certain sectors, so we will subserve the monetary policy objectives. And of course, due to there is also certain spurt in the deposits in the NBFCs. If they are not regulated, they will put the public deposits into jeopardy. So we have taken up on all this regulation of the NBFC sector. The industry and the entire world knows that in the Western, the 2008 financial crisis has erupted because of the shadow banks, because of the unregulated sector. And whereas India has largely remained unaffected because of the regulation that we have been doing in the NBFCs. The shadow banks are nothing but the financial intermediation or bank-like activities outside the regular banking system. So that is called shadow banking. The shadow banking in the Western world, they are not regulated. In fact, after the shadow banking crisis that has erupted in the Western world, they were curious to know as to how India has remained largely unaffected, and they have taken a few lessons from the Reserve Bank of India as to how, because we have been regulating, whether knowingly or unknowingly we have been regulating, because we are concerned how the deposits. Deposit is a holy cow for the Reserve Bank of India, and that's why we have been regulating from 1963 onwards. Of course, if in 1996, if you know, when CRB capital markets has failed, and some few Madras-based companies have failed, and public deposits are put into jeopardy. So that has brought to focus that we have to have strict and stringent regulations regarding the deposit acceptance activity of the NBFCs. So this is the numbers, a few numbers which I would like to give. The NBFC deposit taking companies in 1999 was 624, and we have brought down to 220 through regulatory inducements. Largely regulatory inducement. We have been advising, we have been requesting the companies to convert themselves from category A to category B, and because of that, many companies have converted to category B companies. And whatever 220 companies are there, many are holding the category A certificate, but many are not having deposits. Only 10 companies are having 99% of the public deposits held by them. Deposits are 26,000 crore rupees. As I told, 99% are held by only 10 companies, which are tightly regulated now. Of course, we do not guarantee that tomorrow they will not fail. So only we are regulating. We are keeping ourselves. We are on guard. Our deposits of 2 RMBs, Sahara and Fearless, is amounting to 3,000 crore rupees rod. They will have to pay back by June 30th. And the total assets of the deposit company is 1,27,000 crore rupees. And if you see the number of companies, here, there is NBFC non-deposit taking companies, 11,842 are there, and of which non-deposit taking systemically important companies are 200. These systemically important companies, as per the revised definition, that is 500 crore rupees and above. The total assets of the sector is 13,000 plus crores, 13 lakh crores, 13 lakh crore rupees, which is a huge amount. It is commanding nearly 14% of the total banking assets. Whereas the banking assets have grown at a rate of 5%, the NBFC assets have grown at a rate of 13%, which causes concern for refining our regulations. And of 13 lakh crore rupees, 8 lakh crore rupees are these are the public funds. Out of 13 lakh crore rupee funds which the NBFCs are holding, this 8 lakh crore plus has come from the public funds. So in case this 8 lakh crore rupee fund is a huge amount if it goes unregulated. Then the mission and vision of the regulation is to see that there should be a strong regulatory framework consistent with the objectives and optimization of the USP of the sector. And we have to devise appropriate supervisory framework which gives comfort to the optimal utilization of the available resources. The mission of the Reserve Bank of India in the NBFC sector is to allow or enable the NBFCs to function on a healthy lines to ensure their viability and to develop an appropriate prudential framework for the NBFC sector and affording indirect protection to the depositors by comprehensive regulation of the deposit companies. And our mission is also to curb the unauthorized acceptance of deposits, be it by the corporates or be it by unincorporated bodies. And containment of systemic risk by comprehensive regulation of systemically important companies and also deposit companies. And the final vision of the Reserve Bank of India is to have a strong, robust and vibrant NBFC sector complementing the banking sector. This is our mission and vision. What we want to achieve from the regulatory framework is threefold. One is depositor protection by affording indirect protection, because we have been laying caps on acceptance of deposits. We have been giving some instructions. What preemption, we call preemption. We don't call preemption because we are not taking any money from the NBFC. We tell them you put 50% of your deposits in the government securities or approved securities. So that will stand as a cushion in case of any liquidity mismatch or in case of run on the company by the depositors. And consumer protection. Now NBFCs have been moving slowly from public deposits to public funds. So they will be interacting or they will be dealing with the borrowers, consumers. So the consumer protection is there through what is called Fair Practices Code. We have mandated or directed all the companies to adapt Fair Practices Code, because by following the Fair Practices Code, it will be very difficult for the companies to follow unethical practices or to fleece the borrowers. Of course, nevertheless, a number of complaints are being received by the Reserve Bank of India against some companies in the way they are fleecing the consumers. And by this, the financial stability is a major objective. Financial stability should be there in this system. These are the main three objectives of our regulation and supervision. Coming to the new regulatory framework, see, all along we have been following some framework till number 2010. Prior to 1996, every company which used to get itself incorporated with the ROC, they were allowed to accept deposits up to 25% from the public and 50% from the shareholders. That is 40% of the net worth they could have accepted deposits. And then they can carry on the business without any certificate from the Reserve Bank of India. After 1996, major some crises have happened here and there. In 1997, we have brought out some amendments in the Reserve Bank of India Act, wherein we have given entry point norms, where there should be some entry point norms, there should be some license from the Reserve Bank of India, then only they can carry on the business. In 2006, we have brought out some regulatory framework, prudential regulatory framework for the companies which are systemically important. The systemic importance has been recognized in 2006 in those companies having the asset base of more than 100 crore rupees. So we have put out a separate regulatory framework, a prudential framework for such companies in 2006. From 2006 and 2007 April, we have been following till 2015. In 2015, November 10th and 2014, we have come out with a revised regulatory framework. After considering the growth, the diversity, the complexity, and the technological innovation that the companies have been into, and the diversity in which the companies have grown in, and also the areas which the companies have entered into. The companies have got business interest in various areas. They have entered into insurance, they have entered into mutual funds, they have entered into real estate, they have entered into non-banking financial companies, and some companies are also having banks also. Because of the widespread areas the companies have entered into, there is a need for the Reserve Bank of India to to enhance or to revise the regulatory framework. According the basic objectives of the new regulatory framework is to address the risks wherever they exist. In fact, the risks, see, Reserve Bank of India, as we have discussed, the NBFC is 50%, 50, we call it 50-50. I mean, if you have got more than 50% of financial assets and more than 50% of income is arrived, then it is the NBFC. Regarding 49%, Reserve Bank has been allowing the companies to conduct any business. The 49%, because the risks from that 49% can transmit into financial services, or the risks of the financial 51% can get transmitted to the non-financial areas which the company is conducting, or sometimes since the company has taken loans from the banks or corporates or from debenture holders, the risk can be transmitted to the other. You are interconnected. There is interconnectedness in your operation. Through this interconnectedness, you are in a position to transmit your risks to the other sectors or vice versa. So because of this, we are always telling, we have been time and again we have been telling you need to have robust risk management policies in your companies. You need to have ALM, you need to have ALCO, you need to have several risk committees, several corporate governance standards we have put in place, where through which, if you follow, we believe that risk may not be eliminated totally, but they can be minimized. And of course, in the NBFC sector, there are some gaps and regulatory gaps and arbitrage. To simply to eliminate such regulatory gaps and arbitrage, we have brought in some refinements in our regulations, and we have also sought to harmonize and simplify the regulations to facilitate smooth compliance culture among the NBFCs. To share here that compliance culture still in the NBFC sector is much to be desired. Actually, there is a need for because when the Reserve Bank tells something, it is telling for you to improve financially. It is Reserve Bank doesn't have any personal stake in. In fact, whenever we come to you, it is a free health checkup for you. It is a free financial health checkup. When you inspect it, you should not feel that you are hindrance. You go to the clinic every once in a year, diagnostic for getting your health checked. Reserve Bank is coming and giving you free health checkup, and you should take it in a positive sense and see that the directions or the suggestions given by it are implemented in total. And of course, we from governance standards also we have given some regulations, and of course we have given time. See, when we come out with the regulation, we don't say you from tomorrow onwards you have to follow this. We give time because you have to follow it, and you have to follow it in a non-disruptive style. There should not be any disruption, and you should be in a position to follow it over a period of time. See, as for the legacy issues, in 97 we have brought in entry point number 25 lakh rupees. In 99 we have enhanced to 2 crore rupees. In these 2 years, from 97 to 99, there are several companies which are having 25 lakh rupees as their net on fund. See, from 99 to 2015, so much has taken place, so much of increase has taken place, both in the prices, both in the assets of the NBFCs. That 25 lakh rupees is a very, very small amount, meager amount. And in fact, just because, even the RBI Act, at the time they have put maximum amount of the Reserve Bank can put is 2 crore rupees. So, given an option to us, would have increased to 10 crore rupees. Since the Reserve Bank of India Act has stipulated only 2 crore rupees, now we have enhanced 2 crore rupees in 99. And for the existing companies which are having certificate of registration from the Reserve Bank of India at below 2 crore rupees and above 25 lakh rupees, we have told them that you have to increase it to 2 crore rupees. The reason is that the reason I have stated it this only. And again, the 25 lakh rupees is small amount. And in various committees, they have stated that the companies will have to introduce what is called technology, computers. For all these things, you need to have adequate capital. So we have mandated that the companies which are having less than 2 crore rupees, they have to have 2 crore rupees over a period of time. We have given 2-year time. By 16, you need to have 1 crore, and by 17, you need to have 2 crore rupees. In case the NBFCs are not in a position to achieve this by then we have to take regulatory action, including cancellation of their certificates of registration. And by then, by 2016 and 17, you have to give certificate of registration. Mr. Bhavesh Gora may touch upon this complaints item. Regarding deposit acceptance companies, the asset finance companies which were there prior to 1997, which are holding the category A certificate, we have allowed them to access deposits up to 1.5 times of the net worth fund without credit rating, and 4 times of the net worth fund by with credit rating. we have to bring in harmonization. We have to bring in, because there are loan companies and nation companies. We have told them they should have credit rating, plus they should comply with the credit concentration norm and prudential norms. Then they will be eligible for 1.5. See, within the sector itself we have given differentiation. So in order to eliminate the differentiation, we have brought in the uniformity, that both all the companies whichever are holding category A certificate or deposit holding permission, they should bring down their deposits to 1.5 times of their net owned fund. 1.5 times. See, there, of course, you may tell how you can, because the company may have tied up with the many assets. We have seen from our records that there are almost all the companies, all the deposit holding companies, they are already within the 1.5 times. But there are only some 5 companies which are holding more than their required eligibility. But for them, we have given timeline that the deposits, as and when they mature, they should be run off. They should run off. They should not be allowed to renew those deposits. The asset finance companies, in case they are holding excess deposits, they should not renew the deposits, and they should simply pay off as and when they mature. Coming back to the systemic significance, earlier we were having 100 lakh rupees, 100 crores as systemic significant parameter or threshold level. Now we have enhanced, we have increased the threshold level to 500 crore rupees. Now we have got 2 categories. The companies which are not permitted to accept deposit, they are called non-deposit taking companies. These non-deposit taking companies are divided into non-systemically important companies and systemically important companies. Systemically important companies are those whose asset base is more than 500 crore rupees, and non-systemically important companies is otherwise, that is less than 500 crore rupees. So our regulations are basically are derived from this threshold only. Of course, in a group there may be some multiple NBFCs. All these multiple NBFCs, the assets will be aggregated. And on aggregation, if the 4 or 5 companies put together, their total assets exceed 500 crore rupees, then they have to be they will be classified as systemically important NBFCs, and accordingly the regulatory regime applicable to systemically important companies will apply mutatis to all these companies, even though independently on standalone basis they may be having less than 500 crore rupees. Of course, we always rely on the statutory orders, friends. In fact, statutory orders, I keep telling in various fora, there are vicarious regulators. In fact, Reserve Bank may inspect only a few companies, whereas the statutory auditors will inspect all the companies. Sometimes even the unincorporated bodies, even the real estate companies, even the collective communication schemes. In the n number of items, whatever the finance service is done by any company, our statutory auditor friends will be having access to the books of accounts of those companies. That's why I always say they are our ears and eyes, and persons like many of you are our ears and eyes, and you should tell us through your exception report what is happening in a company, in case there is an exception. In case there is no exception, you don't expect anything, but if there is an exception, you bring it to our notice so that we can carry forward with the agenda of the bank. Non-banking financial companies, deposit companies, in case where there are multiple companies are there, multiple an aggregation which becomes significantly important. In case one of the companies is deposit holding companies, apart from following the prudential regulatory framework, they are required to follow what is called Reserve Bank's acceptance of public deposit regulations, issued in 1998 downward. Of course, definition of the group companies, all of you are very well aware. I need not tell. We have told on the accounting, each accounting standard has defined what is a subsidiary, what is a joint venture, what is an associate company, what is a promoter, and for listed companies, SEBI has given certain regulations. These things you have to follow while arriving at the definition of the group. Prudential norms also we have defined it. Actually, we have come out with the companies having, that is a non-systemically important companies, that is companies having less than 500 crore asset base. They will not be subjected to any regulation either prudential or conduct of business regulations, that is best practices code and KYC now, in case they do not have any access to public fund or they do not have any customer interface. See, the Reserve Bank does not have any concern in a company which does not have any public fund or which does not deal with the customer directly. Basically, they are invested company or the companies which may be investing only their group companies. See, there is no customer interface. So for them, we don't lay down any prudential norms nor KYC guidelines. However, the registration of the Reserve Bank of India is mandatory for all the companies. That needs to be underlined. And for non-banking financial companies, which are systemically important, that is 500 crore and above, and also debt holding companies, we have stipulated now the minimum Tier 1 capital adequacy ratio of 10%, and it will be right now it is 7.5. We don't tell them you will revise from tomorrow. We have given timeline. See, by 2016, by 1 year from hence, you bring it to 8.5%, and by 2 years down the line, you bring it to 10%. This is the timeline we have given. I think this timeline is not too stiff. Keeping in view, already many of the companies are having about 20% of NBFC. There are a few companies which are just above the regulatory prescription as of now, and just below the revised regulatory prescription. And the timeline we have given is sufficient for them to achieve or fulfill the regulatory requirement. Asset classification, that is substandard assets, doubtful assets, and loss assets. We wanted to harmonize with the banks. That is, the time norm we have given for the NBFC is 6 months, whereas in case of banks is 3 months. So the timeline we have given to the NBFCs. But in case of leasing and hire purchase, of course, this model is going to be a thing of past, where the companies are moving out of the hire purchase and leasing. So we have brought it down to 3 months to be in line with it. But here also we have given timeline up to 2018. That is 3 years timeline we have given for bringing your substandard asset timeline from 6 months to 3 months. So the time we have given is sufficiently enough. But there is a hue and cry when the industry has, when we have brought out this guideline. There is a hue and cry stating that the company's bottom line will be hit, the profitability affected, all these things. See, to use our governor's words, mutilating Shakespeare by whatever name you call it, it smells. So NPS is like that. See, basically what we are telling to your stakeholders, that is shareholders, see for the last 3 months you have not received the payment installment or servicing interest. So that's why you are calling it a non-performing asset for the last 3 years. So 3 months is last 3 months. 3 months is sufficiently, genuine amount of period which the company should, or the borrower should have repaid. When the entire board of the Basel Committee is adopting one time norm, it will be unfair on our part to give a different time norm. More so when you are going to be emerging and when you are going to be a lead central banker, leader in setting the standards in the financial services. So keeping this in view, we have given a timeline of 3 years to come to the norm of 3 months. Of course, assets, this is what we have given, 6 months to 5 months by 16, 4 months by 17, and 3 months by 18. From 18 onwards only 3 months will be there. And this, of course, hire purchase and for hire purchase and leasing, historically we have put 12 months as a period for recognition of it as a substandard assets. Now we are planning to bring it down to 3 months. It's only to harmonize with the norms as applicable to the banks. For provision of the assets, of course, for substandard assets, doubtful assets, and loss assets, we have already quantified and there is no revision. But for standard assets, we have stipulated 0.25% as a. Actually, this is only a provision. This is only a general reserve to serve as a cushion for counter-cycling effect. This is a buffer for you to serve as it will serve you in times of crisis. And this amount is also taken as a type 2 capital. And this is also harmonized with the bank as before to the bank. We have mandated all the banks to have 0.40% of their standard assets towards provision. Similarly, we have initially put 0.25% of the standard assets to the NBFCs. Now we have mandated, or we have refined or redefined to 0.40%, inconformity or inconsistent with the commercial banks. So this 0.40% we have given a timeline for 3 years. 0.30% by 16, 0.35 by 17, and 0.40% by 2018. In case for credit regarding in the asset finance companies, we have given some special dispensation for the asset finance companies. For all other companies, 15% is a norm for single borrower limit. But for asset finance companies, we have given that they can exceed by another by 5%. This we wanted to bring it in uniformity or in conformity with the other NBFCs. So the AFCs, the special dispensation that is available to the asset finance companies has been done away with in this new regulatory framework. And wherever there is excess, that will be allowed to run off. However, infrastructure finance companies, infrastructure debt fund companies, since they will be extending loans and advances for the infrastructure projects, we are retaining the concession that we have given to those such companies. And coming to the corporate governance issues, we have laid out certain broad parameters. Of course, there should be board committees should be there, and the audit firms also there should be rotation of the partners, as is made applicable to the NBFC, NDSIs, and NBFC-D. And the audit committee of the NDSIs and also the NBFC-D must also ensure that the information systems audit of the insurance system and process is conducted at least once in 2 years to assess the operational risk that the companies could face. The three committees basically risk committee, nomination committee, and ALCO. ALM committee. The fit and proper criteria for the directors, as applicable to NDSIs, and also for divided companies, it will be applicable to all the companies. With effect from 31st March 2015. We have stated that whenever there is a change of directors, they have to be certified by the managing director and also certificate signed by the auditors as on 31st March 2015. But subsequently there is any change, only MD can sign and send it to the Reserve Bank. And we also put in a policy where the fit and proper criteria at the time of appointment of directors and a continuing basis should be continued, and a declaration and undertaking shall be obtained from the directors, and all the directors shall sign the deed of covenant. We have given a format of deed of covenant where the NBFCs will have to take from the directors. The NBFCs of course shall furnish the quarterly statement of change of directors, and the fit and proper criteria is basically to determine whether the individuals that the company has proposed are they fit to hold the post of director of the company or not. Is it acceptable to the company as well as to the regulator? You have to undertake what is called the due diligence process to determine the suitability based on the qualification, expertise, track record, integrity, and other fit and proper criteria of the individual whom you propose to appoint. For assessing the integrity and also the suitability, the features such as the criminal record, financial position, the civil actions regarding personal debts, refusal of admission or expulsion from any professional bodies, and sanctions applied by other regulators or similar bodies, previous questionable practices. These are all the things that the company has to scrupulously examine the persons to be appointed, so that they are really fit to be on the board of the company. And they have to also submit the personal data such as director identification number, allotment letter, the copy of the PAN card, various declarations and experience certificate. And currently we will also be collecting confidential reports from other regulators like SEBI, ISA, MCX, MCTX, etc. And banks and foreign regulators also will take in case there are any individuals holding foreign passport or even the foreigners are start to be appointed on the boards of the company. Of course, some disclosures are there regarding the financial accounts of the company, where the CRAR, exposure to real estate sector, and maturity pattern of the asset and liability. These continuities need to be declared or disclosed in your annual statement of accounts by the annual report of the company. But these are some minor, greater granular details which start to be given. Regarding there may be some companies which will be having several companies, joint ventures will be there, or some foreign subsidiaries or wholly owned subsidiaries will be there. Where these will have to make some disclosure for the benefit of all the stakeholders who will be dealing with the company. And asset liability profile and extent of financing of parent company products, NPAs and movement of NPAs, all these things we have to disclose in the annual accounts of the company. Of course, offsite reporting, we have elaborately given what are the reports. In fact, in case of companies having less than, which are non-systemically important companies, more than 11,000 companies we have created. Right now, we are having only one supervisory tool that all the companies which are non-systemically important, they have to submit to the Reserve Bank of India an annual auditor certificate stating that the company continues to engage itself in the non-banking financial institution business. That is the only supervisory tool we have been relying on. That is really it is a risk of reputation for the Reserve Bank of India also, because we do not have any other data. Whereas you have given license to it, we simply merely even this certificate is not being submitted by many companies. This is the status, and when the certificate, when such annual certificate is not submitted, it is incumbent on the part of the statutory auditors that wherever there is deviation from the Reserve Bank's regulations, they should, by way of an exception, report to the Reserve Bank of India that this company has not followed these prudential norms. This company has not submitted the Reserve Bank of India guideline. This company has not followed the fair practices code. This company has not followed the KYC norms. This company has indulged in the AML monitoring, anti-money laundering norms. These are the things where you have to see and report to the Reserve Bank of India, so that you will definitely be aiding the regulator in seeing to it, in taking the NBFCs on a growth trajectory. Of course, we are coming out with a simplified annual return for all such non-systemically important companies to submit a return. But till such time, the annual auditor certificate has to continue, and we will also be coming out with other returns for the systemically important companies. Of course, these are the various directions. Then there was one more important thing, that leverage. As far as the systemically important companies, the leverage is sought to be addressed by capital adequacy ratio. But non-systemically important companies, the companies having less than 500 crore rupees, we have put out a leverage of 7 times. If you have got, say, 10 crore rupees, you can go up to 70 crore rupees leverage that you can borrow, not more than. you cannot raise beyond 7 times. Earlier, this norm was not there, because some companies, we came to know that some companies, without any fund, they are having a 25 lakh rupees or 52 crore rupees, they have leveraged 20 crores, 30 crore rupees. Very high leverage was there. So this is likely to cause some systemic effect, and also not only systemic effect, because they are not still in the game. The directors of such company, they do not have any stake in it, but they are simply playing with the funds of the others, public funds. So we have told, unless we have, so that we have put on a very plain and simple cap of 7 times. If you have got 10 crores, you can only leverage up to 70 crores. Of course, this in the garb of secure debentures, there are companies which are raising the funds. Though there is no security, they are raising the NCDs. In fact, by way of private placement, we have come out with another regulation stating that for private placement, you cannot have from more than 200 people. There should be security deposits also. And there is also cap we have put. If the maximum amount is less than 1 crore rupees, such non-secured debenture, non-convertible debenture have to be secured. If the minimum amount is 1 crore rupees and above, we do not have any concern, because the person who is putting in the private placement of NCDs of any company of 1 crore above, he need not have any statutory protection. But a person who is having, say, 10 lakh rupees, 20 lakh rupees, he needs the statutory or state protection, because his money should not go to some, it should not go waste, or it should not be put in risky paper. So we have come out with a regulation whereby if the company is going for private placement, such company can go in for private placement and maximum number is 200 people, and and such issue should be secured in case you are raising money from people who can subscribe up to 1 crore rupee only. If the company is able to raise from a single individual or individuals beyond 1 crore rupees, then the state protection is not required, and they can raise even unsecured debentures. Trading is 25 to 200 lakhs very good. These are grander details which we cannot be required. Of course, in the course of complaints, the friend may touch. Of course, this is a very simple thing. In case of non-required companies, they have to pass a board resolution every year, stating that they have to they have resolved not to accept public reports, and they also resolve that they are not holding public as on date, and they will also have to give a certificate from the standard order stating that the company does not have any public reports during the last 1 year, and as on 31 March 2014 or 2013, whatever may be the year of completion of the accounts. Those two certificates are mandatorily required to be submitted by all the NBFCs not holding public reports. These are all not requirements. So finally, these auditors they will have to report whatever adverse observations are there. In the morning I was discussing with Mr. Bhavesh Gowda. See, the auditors should not feel that it is a conflict of interest. See, auditors, when they are conducting the inspection or the statutory audit of the companies, no doubt they get paid by the company, but they should not feel reluctant to report in case there are some observations which are adverse to the company. If they are adverse, they have to report. Now, just because the company is paying him, it does not mean that it will prevent you from doing your duty. If you are doing such a duty, you are not a statutory auditor. You will be doing great disservice to the company and also disservice to the stakeholders and also regulators and the system as a whole. That way, the duty of the regulators will be that. He is like a doctor. If you go to the doctor by paying him, he will tell you whatever adverse features are there in your health profile. He will tell you have to follow. But just because the doctor you have paid him fees, you cannot expect the doctor to give you a clean certificate that you don't have any diseases. So it is like that. See, auditor should play such a role, medical physician role, while auditing the books of account of the company. With this thing, I think I'll end my presentation, and after Mr. Bhavesh Gowda's presentation, I will take some questions from you people. And I thank once again the chamber and also all of you for giving a patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Swami, for making the presentation and giving a broad overview of the rules applicable. I request Dhaneshwar to take it. In the meantime, if I write down the questions, the person who chamber will move around and get those sheets from me.
very, very strong, dedicated and knowledgeable members of NBFC industry, torchbearer of future of professions, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Before I thank anybody, I would like to thank all of you. Because of you, I got this opportunity to relearn the subject. And all of us jointly thank Chamber of Tax Consultants. If they would not have organized, I also would not have learned, you also would not have learned. So friends, on all of everybody's behalf, we would like to thank Chairman Vijay, President Paras, other President Ketan, Preeti, and all the office bearers of the Chamber who jointly gave us this opportunity to learn this subject. When I am thinking, we should also thank Mr. Swami that when we talk to him, he readily accepts, to come and open his heart out that what is this NBFC all about. Being a busy regulator, coming on Saturday morning, which is the only day which he gets, and coming and selling to this platform is really commendable. So we are indeed thankful to you also. And it is my privilege also to speak and say that I is with him. So when he is there as a keynote speaker, I feel so much secure that whatever I will not able to cover in the questions, I think I can leave it on to Mr. Swami to answer those questions for me. And today I am lucky that I have been covered by both the sides because my previous speaker is here, Mr. Swami, and my next speaker, Mr. Jayant Thakur, also is here. So I feel so much secure. At the same time, so much excited that I need to balance between both of them, that between regulations to core investment company. So friends, the whole endeavor is we will have only audio and no video. And that's why Vijay was worried that why I have given laptop to him. Okay, whether he will have to do which line you will have to move. So you don't have to worry, Vijay. You have to relax and listen out. What we do, we jointly evolve these friends. And whatever questions you have, you please write in a sheet. See that your questions are relevant, reasonable, not very long. Okay, not to the point. And then you can forward the sheets here. We will answer, myself and Mr. Swami, we will attempt to answer as many questions as it can be. Coming to subject proper, friends, when the Chamber contacted me to speak on the subject, I was very much delighted because there was nothing new which I could have already shared with you. But suddenly, from 27th March, the rain started. And from 27th March 2015, all new notification came. Again on 10th April, 13th April, something new came. So today also I was asking Naveen, my partner who really helped me today, that is there anything came yesterday night? No sir, nothing has come. Okay, thank you so much. And now also, before I came here, I was just seeing the RBI side, is there anything came? Nothing, so I am safe here to speak. So friend, from in last 20 days, lots of changes has happened. So let's try to understand and erase what is the past and understand what is the new, what is the philosophy by which these changes have come. Before I go and tell you the changes, I would like to know how many you are from NBFC industry per se, or not from the professions. Please raise the, otherwise you will not get a food coupon, so if you are not raising your hand, okay, they are watching you. Yeah? Only this coming from industry. Right? There are many. I know many of them are from industry, they are not raising their hand. Don't worry, there is no extra fees which I am going to charge. Okay. And how many you are from the actually chartered accountant profession? So almost there are 50-50, and I don't know about balance. So it is 40-40, 20, I don't know, question 1. It may be like a him NBFC. Okay. Okay. Friends, when we are talking about this NBFC, you will be surprised to know that the number of NBFCs are reducing year by year. But the significance of NBFC is increasing. If you see, today roughly in March 2014, there were about 12,029 NBFCs, which were many. But if you compare the asset of NBFC, as one of the slides of SWAB was also there, that in 2009, the total asset of the NBFCs were 5,60,000 crore. In 2014, it has gone to 14 lakh crore, 41,000 crore. So the number of NBFC reducing, the asset on the other side is increasing. So we are going to see the era whereby few NBFCs will make a big difference in the industry. Other important thing is the NBFCs, deposit taking NBFCs, when we are all talking, is only 241. And out of 241, there are only 17 NBFCs who have deposited more than 10 crores. So out of 241, there are only 17 NBFCs who have deposited more than 10 crores. So by and large, when we talk this, we have to understand this industry has very small but very powerful. Okay. Why this has been significantly increasing? If you see, earlier there was when Usha Thorat Committee report came, there was a debate whether this NBFC as an industry will remain or the regulator is not wanting that NBFC and it should merge with the small banks. Lots of debate have been happening, and one of the recommendations in that in 2011 was that NBFC with an asset size of less than 50 crores, they should be exempted. So there was no clarity whether they should be exempted from registration, and in the draft provisions it came that it would be 25 crores, and there were lots of debate. And I still recollect that many of persons have approached us, and because the draft guidelines were there on the RBI website, many have approached us stating that, sir, the circular has come, below 25 we are not regulated. So we have to tell them, look, it is not like that, it is just on a draft stage, and still the regulations are governed, there is nothing which has been finalized. So friend, with this, as I told you, this small, tiny but very powerful industry was prior to 1996 was very loosely regulated. From 1996, I think after the CRB matter, there were some regulations came with auditor report and some prudential norm and revised auditor directions. But the major change happened in 2007 or 2008, whereby they came out the revised prudential norms, new auditors directions, and the first time the asset-based bifurcation between the systemic importance and non-systemic importance, there is 100 crores and below and 100 crores and above, that separate sort of regulation will be enacted at that time. One thing you have to understand, when we talk about NBFCs, the NBFCs are more concerned about, or the regulators are more concerned about the size of the asset, because they would like to know what is the significance or systemic risk involved in this NBFC. However, if you go to a SEBI side, it is more controlled by net on fund, net worth, or sort of on fund or capital criteria. So we have to understand here that RBI is more on a size of the asset, because the size of the assets will determine what is the risk that particular company or NBFC has been carrying as a whole. So in 2007, friends, this came, and from 2007, this NBFC has come into the limelight. 2011, and if you see the 2008, 2000, then the subprime crisis of US happened. Lots of, and I am really so thankful to our Reserve Bank of India that we were decoupled of the subprime crisis only because of step taken by Reserve Bank of India. And luckily, 2007, the notification already had come out. And till today, we may be finding that some of the regulations are not logical or very stringent. But if you go on the philosophy and the object behind it, you will find that on a large design, it is to protect the NBFCs, protect the financial system, and protect the country as a large. So friends, in 2011, lots of things came up, the Usha Thorat Committee report, but after that, the Sahara scam happened in the Calcutta, and the Sahara program started, and there was lots of debate whether the small NBFC should be allowed to continue or not. And friends, out of 12,029 NBFCs, roughly 11,000 NBFCs are such, the asset side of which is below 50 crores. So if below 50 crores goes, it may happen that suddenly out of 12,000 NBFC, 11,000 would have gone out of the picture and only 1,000 would have remained. So lots of meeting happened, which I was also there in so many meetings. Ultimately, it remained in, and to really discuss out so many problems, from 1st April 2014, the license, the new license also been suspended and stopped till the time new guidelines came. So in November 10, 2014, the draft guidelines came and the NBFCs, the regulators restarted the registration. So many of you were having a doubt in their mind that whether NBFC registration is still stopped and looking here and there for buying out. Let me tell you, NBFC registration has restarted from November 10, 2014 and one can now apply to the registrations. So in November 10, 2014, the guidelines came and from there the new registration started. Now these guidelines were again not been finalized that what is going to come, what is not going to come, but more or less it was in the line of various Nachiket More Committee report or Usagard Committee report and lots of representation which has gone from various industry. But March 27, 2015, at about 7:30 in the evening, we saw two new notifications on the RBI website. And these two notifications suddenly has repealed 2007 prudential norms. So it means many of which you have not studied this prudential norm 2007, you can start studying now because this is only almost 20 days old notification. So you are not very far from when it is being enacted. Now this 2015 notification which has came just 20 days back has given two elements. One, the element for systemic importance, that is asset size which was earlier 100 crores, that is above 500 crores, and non-systemic, that is below 500 crores. Apart from there, thereafter corporate governance guideline came, some draft paper also have been received, some clarification also has been received. Lots of things now in last 10-15 days is happening on the NBFC front, but to my mind, all in a proper and in the right direction. But mainly if you see, it is for the 100 crores asset has moved to a 500 crores asset. Okay, but if you are having 3 crores of the asset side, it is you are not out. The whole fear was that whether small NBFC is required to be registered or not. I think that has now been put to rest. Even if you are small NBFC of 4 crores, 5 crores, 50 crores, whatever, you will be still required to register and get regulated by Reserve Bank of India. Only thing is you have a very light and very very light sort of regulations and not heavy load of compliances. Now let me go to some of the points which is always been troubling, and that's why I have put DPT aside and wanted to talk from heart to heart. The biggest problem today is at 50-50%. Anybody who asks, this 50-50%, though most simple, but in actual most complicated. So many have received the notices, okay, knowing that we are a non-banking finance company, and they have been confused that what is exactly whether we are non-banking finance company, we are banking finance company, what that they are running from pillar to post to really find the answer. And as Swami sir rightly said, rather than running, why don't you approach the regulator themselves? So if you got a notice, you have not been permitted or admitted as a thief. RBI has brought to your notice a look from an asset income pattern which we have derived from list of company. It looks that you are doing a non-banking financial company business. If you are doing a non-banking financial company business, neither your auditor has brought out or neither you have understood, you please come out what is the future plan of actions. So anybody of you whom you have got a notice, I am sure that sir you have sent I think more than 4,000 notices. 1,800 notices has been sent. So if you have received the notice, I think there is no panic should be there. Okay, one will have to approach and find out what is the way out. Has been always been saying, there is no vindictive approach by a regulator, no. The idea is to regularize and bring to your notice that look now if you have got a notice, you regularize yourself. But queries still come that many have been asking that sir we have our own net on fund, we have not borrowed anything from outside and we have invested in the shares of a listed company, still we are required to get registered, and why? When you have not borrowed, why we have to, it is my own money, I am not even in a business of loan. But let me tell you friends, Section 45I into bracket C of Reserve Bank of India Act, when they talk about the scope of NBFC activity, they also cover acquisitions of shares. And that's why any of you, even out of your own network, without no loan on liability side, investing only in the securities, they will still be governed, okay, by the regulations. But now the regulations are very clear that if you are having only your net and fund, only you are registered only with the auditor certificate in a year. Many time questions came that are we from only we have our own capital, we are giving loans to our group company, why we have to be registered? Okay, lots of questions are there. Let me tell you friends, here whether with capital or without capital, or with loan or without loan, the both, if you are in the business of acquiring shares and securities, or you are business of re-lending, then you will be governed by non-banking financial companies regulations. There are many cases which we noticed whereby they are registered NBFC, but they are not fulfilling this 50-50% criteria. See, they are non-registered entity, so any of you who are from industry or auditors, please see that as you write, not intentionally, but by mistake, any of the companies which you have been auditing has been there as 50-50, has crossed as 50-50% criteria. So you need to relook at. Sometimes you have to look from year to year. The reverse case was much more, need to be discussed here. That many registered NBFCs has unfortunately been doing other businesses, and they are not able to meet 50-50% criteria. But let me tell you, it is also duty of the auditors or of the company to see that if you are registered NBFCs and I am not maintaining 50-50% criteria, I need to approach a regulator and go with a roadmap that what is, or if I am not going to achieve that 50-50, I have invested in some XYZ business, then I need to suo motu voluntarily, I have to apply for the deregistrations. Second important thing is, now these two notifications which has come, which is for a systemic important company, there is 500 crores and above asset size, and for non-systemic investment company, which is below 500 crores. So you have to understand now, there are three NBFCs which will prevail. One is deposit taking NBFC, one is NBFCs below 500 crores, and other NBFCs there is 500 crores and above. Now, below 500 crores NBFCs can again be divided in two parts for the compliance purposes. That is, one accepting public funds and one not accepting funds. Now, one, if you are accepting a public fund, first of all, let us discuss that you are NBFC size of below 500 crores, you are not accepting public funds. So you have your net on fund only, or your net worth only on liability side, and you are doing XYZ any business, then only you have to file yearly one certificate from chartered accountant, right sir? Now with the new regulations, that okay, we have been following this, and you will be out of all that cumbersome compliances which otherwise you have to follow. Here two things I would like to tell you, that any public fund which you are taking now, then you will be governed by all the regulations of non-systemic important. So if there is a loan which you have been taking, and public funds is different than public deposit. Many of them have been coming to regulator, coming to us stating that, sir, we have not taken public deposits. Okay, so please understand, public, there is a three definitions under the Reserve Bank. Reserve Bank Act has talk about the deposit, out of deposit, the public deposit definition has been carved out, and out of public deposit, public funds definition has been carved out. So certain things like ICD, which have been exempt under public deposit, the definition of public deposit, is now been covered under public funds. So if you take ICD in the company, then it is a public fund, then you will be again have with some more regulations. So ICD is allowed under public deposit, but not allowed under public fund. Other very important thing is, when you read the definition of public funds, they have said anybody directly or indirectly taking any fund, public deposit, and say debentures, bank finance, and 2-3 more things will be there in the definitions. So it means if directors or a shareholder gives the loan to a company, I think to my mind this should be allowed. Now I don't know whether there is an intent of the legislation or intent of the law, I don't know. But if you read the public fund definition today, you find that what is not allowed, public deposit is not allowed, fine. But under public deposit, what is exclusion is only bank finance or ICD or debentures, etc., etc. So, what is allowed under public deposit, which were the loan from shareholder, loan from directors, or sometimes mutual fund, all that, whether it will be allowed or not allowed. But as on today, plain reading of the definition shows that even if I am an NBFC, I have my own capital, I am borrowing from directors or a shareholder, which is otherwise allowed in public deposit, may still qualify as a lesser regulations, and only auditor certificate may still required to be given. So one will have to wait for time to come that any clarification comes from their side only. Otherwise, the borrowing will happen in the NBFC companies. Other important thing is, when we are talking about the companies below 500 crores, the new thing which has come is a leverage ratio, and which of course been touched upon in the previous slide. Now earlier, the non-systemic company or company below 100 crores were not allowed to do any leverage, were allowed to do free leveraging. It means you have asset size, you have net on fund of 3 crores, you can have a lending of say 80 crores. So that was allowed earlier. Now the big move, what they have done is, even the smaller NBFC, the leverage is only 7 times. Okay? Now what is this leverage? The leverage is own fund divided by the outside liability, or outside liability divided by the own fund. Right? It means the ratio should not be more than 7. Now if you see the 15% capital adequacy, actual ratio was coming to 6.65, now it is coming to 7. So any NBFCs, and surprisingly the regulation has said about 31/3/2015. I had opportunity to talk to sir at RBI, and I told sir the regulation come only on 27th of March, 2 days were holiday. So in one day effectively we cannot, or nobody cannot, convert the ratio to 7. But I think if your balance sheet showing that more than 7 times leverage, we will have to approach RBI with a proper roadmap that how we are planning to go out of it. So now all NBFCs below 500 crores will be governed by 7 times leverage ratio. Now this leverage ratio is on a liability, so you have to compare liability wise liability. But if you are above 500 crores, you have to compare capital adequacy, which is capital vis-a-vis your risk-weighted asset. So one has to be very, very clear that when you are below 500, you have to compare liability wise liability. When you are on a above 500 crores above, you have to compare asset, the capital adequacy to the asset. One thing I am still surprised that if you are not accepting public fund, then you are exempt from any requirement other than filing annual certificate to Reserve Bank of India. But let me tell you friend, that will be very minimum cases where you are not having public fund. There will be car loan at least in the balance sheet, there will be some loans, some ICDs, and the whole purpose or whole genesis of any non-banking finance company is to leverage, is not to just maintain net worth and do something. So in my view, going forward we may find that there will be very few companies out of 11,000 companies also who will be really not accepting public fund, but it only will time will tell. Other important thing which I want to draw to your attention that in the draft note and even on the slide which has been presented, there was mentioned that for this 500 crores, various company in a group will be total, asset will be total, and if you have say 3 companies all of more than 200 crore asset size, right, then the SI regulations would be applicable. However, in the notification which we have received on 27 March, there was nothing mentioned about the multiple NBFCs in the same group. So one will have to wait and vote for the notification or some clarification, because if you read the definition of systemic important NBFCs, they have said above 500 crores. But my view still friends, if you are having 3 NBFCs in a group, all of 300, 300, 300, one will have to wait and watch that you may still become a systemic important company and not non-systemic important company. However, regulation is not still defined that, but if you see the concept paper of our guidelines of November 10th, I think it very clearly specified that you will have to club all these three and then you will have to see. Now I have already discussed about this 7 times liability. One thing you will understand that in the public fund is 7 times. Earlier, any convertible instrument, there were the cases which somebody has been said in the own fund. When you talk about own fund, what you to take, whether you to take convertible preference shares, which is more than 5 years. I think now it has been very clearly spelled out in the notification, and there is in own funds you may take the preference shares. But when you talk about the outside liability, you have to understand that any conversion, any instrument which is convertible after the 5 years will be treated as a liability. So please bear in mind, which in CIC guidelines it is 10 years. Okay. However, in these guidelines, the 10 years have been brought down to 5 years. So anybody who has been doing this, who is planning for the convertible preferences, will have to relook at the definition before they really approach and do something which may be otherwise wrong. Now in systemic important NBFCs, there are NBFCs above 500 crores. There is a capital adequacy of 15%. So your capital should be 15% if your asset is 100 rupees. Okay, this is simple capital adequacy. Now, this capital adequacy is nothing but it is a total of tier 1 plus tier 2. Okay, that is where the capital adequacy comes from. In earlier regulations, tier 2 capital, which is a preference shares and other revaluations type of thing, is a quasi capital, were not being allowed to be more than 100% of tier 1 capital. Okay, so if there is a 15% is a capital adequacy, I could have 7.5% out of my equity capital, 7.5% out of my preference. But these regulations again has brought down that 7.5 tier 1 is not enough. So this 7.5 over a period by March 2017 will move to 10%. So now 15% capital adequacy going forward will be 10 plus 5% you will have to look, not 7.5 and 7.5. Other important thing is this concentration norms. These concentration norms were still not applicable because what is this concentration norm is very simple. That if you are having asset concentrated only on one company or investment only in one company, you cannot have more than 15% of your own fund, not of net own fund. Okay, so that still has remained. So there is no relief for concentration. Only if the companies are below 500 crore asset size, then concentration norms has now done away with. So if you are a company below 500 crore and if you are giving to one group or one individual which is more than the threshold, which will be now allowed. But if you are a company above 500 crore asset size, you will not able to lend or invest more than 15% in one company and more than 25% in the group of companies. Okay. And next, I'm just taking some of the major amendments. There are lots of small, but which is self-explanatory. And the PPT has been given, which you can take as a homework for Sunday. Okay. So you don't go and just browse. Okay, sir, other points are already mentioned on the PPT, but which you can easily read out, right? That I have not been discussing. Okay. One very popular points, lending against shares, is been the talk of the town from August 21, 2004. Now, this was NBFCs mainly. Many NBFCs were lending against collateral of shares, and they have been as a conglomerate of the financial intermediary of the SEBI, as a margin trading or a loan against shares or for XYZ reason. Now, Suddenly in last year, on August 21st, 2014, the circular came that anybody who is been lending against the collector of shares will have to maintain loan to value at 50%. So supposing you are giving me shares, I am giving you a loan. Okay, I have to do a loan to value. So if you are giving me 100 rupees, okay, I'll give you 50 rupees. Okay. Now see, the biggest problem in this was, the other thing is they have mentioned that if the loan is above 5 lakh rupees, only group 1 shares is required to be taken. Now first of all, there were two queries earlier, whether applicable to all the companies or applicable to only some of the companies. Then I think the circular was very clear that this will be applicable to companies which are above 100 crores threshold. So we have been hoping that if the SI has gone to 500 crores, the whole circular will be applicable to all SI and it will go to all company applicable to 500 crores, and a below 500 crore company will be free from this circular of maintaining 50% of loan to value and this 5 lakhs. But it didn't happen. So now within that 500 crores, then what is happened that even when you are talking non-SI, you have to always capture asset side, because this new circular which has come last week is on April 10. Okay, the clarification which has come. Now this has come after 27 March notification, and they were saying the threshold limit is 100 crores. So even the company which are below 500 crores but above 100 crore asset will be governed, still be governed by this circular of loan against shares. But 2-3 very important thing which is we mentioned here, that this will not be applicable to unlisted shares. So if promoter is giving unlisted shares, that will not be applicable. Okay, so it is big relief. Now if there is a reduction of 50%, supposing I have given the loan and the reduction is 50%, then I have time of 7 days to make the reduction good. Okay. Next is, you have to report to exchange on a quarterly basis. So earlier there was a confusion that when to report, who will accept the report, and still this report is to stock exchanges and not to RBI. And the last and very important is, Group 1 share is only for onward investment in capital market. So all this LTV of 50% has to be maintained, but this Group 1 definition is only when the person who is taking the loan is inward investing in or onward investing in the capital market. So if you are giving me assets to me and you want to start your project and I am giving you a loan, then this will not be. But if you are giving me assets, I am giving you a loan and you are buying a further shares, then this will be applicable. Okay, so this is one we have to understand what is the purpose of the loan and accordingly move. But there is a big change and we have to wait and watch that how really it will be interpreted in the industry as a large. As I told you, this will be applicable to the non-SI who are above 100 crores. Now there is a huge disclosure also is required in the balance sheet. If you see the corporate governance guidelines, you will find there is a huge disclosure which is required in the balance sheet. One thing I would like to bring to your notice here, that when you are giving a loan out of your own funds and you are not borrowed, then as per the notification, only para 15 is applicable. So now the question will come up that if I am giving a loan, though maybe against further buying of shares out of my own funds, and notification says that only para 15 is applicable, so no other para will be applicable to me, whether this circular will still be applicable to me or not, that I think we will have to wait and vote. To my mind, answer will be yes, because the idea is to avoid the risk which NBS will be taking. But in notification, only one point is, because this loan against says paragraph also is there in the notification. But if you read the notification, they have said only para 15 will be applicable of auditor certificate. So one will have to now see that how the interpretation comes. But to my advice to all of you, that follow in the spirit as per RBI is there, don't read the head like what you are reading the Income Tax Act, read in between the line, in between the words, and trying to modify it to your requirement. RBI, I think if you see the whole Reserve Bank of India regulations and notification is by intent and principle based rather than the rule based. Okay, so one will have to, going forward also, don't try to interpret the RBI Act like what you interpret Income Tax Act, and you interpret comma, full stop and find some